£22 million. That's how much my local council and Network Rail spent on this bridge behind me. But it won't take the most astute viewer to notice it's not open yet. And it hasn't been since it was first built 11 years ago. Everyone involved taking notes from Westfield on this one, clearly. Officially named Kafka-esque Walk, but dubbed the Bridge to Nowhere by Inside Croydon, this double-laned bridge was supposed to link Cherry Orchard Road here to East Croydon Station and its back exit here on Dingwall Road. But for the past decade, half of this multi-million-pound bridge has sat doing all. The reasons why are a classic tale of public-private partnerships gone wrong, underfunded public organisations penny pinching over a single staff member, and a half-assed planning proposal that looks likely to be rejected, meaning things won't get done for even longer. This is the mind-bogglingly infuriating tale of Croydon's £22 million bridge that's been 14 years in the making and doesn't actually go anywhere. For those of you who aren't from Croydon, which is seemingly a fair few of you, the town centre here is a bit of a mess of urban planning for the most part. Residents have been calling for a pedestrian connection between the commercial and residential area of Addiscombe, here, and the town centre, over here, for, well, a long time. The main train station, East Croydon, which is one of the busiest in London and the whole of the UK, cuts right through here. In 2010, Croydon Council and Network Rail announced they were building a £20 million pedestrian bridge across the tracks just here. Croydon Council put in £6 million for the project. Network Rail stumped up the other £14 million. Later that year, the proposed developers of these flats, which you will see are now in use and open, generously stepped in to cover the east side of the bridge. Mentor, an international platform for high IQ individual... Mentor is a property developer with
over 25 years of experience in development and regeneration, based on a unique ability to combine people's skill sets and expertise in order to drive projects forward.
In 2013, they agreed with Croydon Council that they would take on construction of the east end of the bridge. But, and unlike Sir Mix-a-Lot, this is a big but that I'd be lying if I said I liked, Croydon Council reportedly never put in a guaranteed deadline in the contract for Mentor to complete the project. I wonder why that might have been important. Between 2013 and 2023, Mentor finished 4 tower blocks in this area. 2 affordable and social housing blocks, Crescent and Orchard Gardens, opened last year. That came after private apartment blocks Santina, Rainier, Amarell, and the cherry on the pie of East Croydon's residents' faces, Maraschino. Somewhat brazenly, many of these flats were marketed as having great connections to Croydon Town Centre, which is funny because Mentor did not finish its promised connection until 6 years after the first flats were built. Still, Mentor did actually kind of come through on this one, a decade late, but we got there eventually. Good news, everyone. Why then, you might be asking, is this bridge still not open? Well, that might be because it sat unused and uncared for over a decade. After it sat under wraps for 11 years, Network Rail said that the bridge needed immediate repairs to be fit for its intended purpose. And surprise, Mentor, perfectly legally to be fair, said that they weren't on the hook for that bill. Croydon Council also couldn't pay up. So in the end, Network Rail had to stump up the money. But after spending all that cash, they now had different plans for the bridge. In August this year, the rail operator submitted new plans to Croydon Council for the opening of the bridge. Unfortunately, they were almost universally opposed by residents. Local residents were mostly opposed to the plans because Network Rail made no mention of having any entrance to the station on the newly opened south side of the bridge. So, commuters coming into the station through this east entrance will have to walk all the way along the bridge down to the ticket line and then potentially back on themselves to get to their platform. That's a distance of 235 metres, when it could be just 80 metres with ticket barriers and an entrance. It also means foot traffic on both sides of the bridge, which could create overcrowding issues, a possibility that Network Rail admitted but said they would look into again in the future. Very convenient and accessible. Good job, Network Rail. The recent planning proposal saw 532 comments opposed and just 15 in support. Network Rail outlined their reasons for not having a gate line entrance on the bridge in this cover letter for the planning application. Essentially, they said it probably does need a ticket barrier entrance, but they need to open it without one first and see how that goes. An actual potential reason behind the decision to not put a ticket gate line barrier on the bridge, as pointed out by several users on Reddit and one inside source on the railways that I spoke to, is that Network Rail doesn't want to pay for anyone to operate them, which apparently is partly influenced by the amount of fare jumping and other dodgy behaviour at East Croydon station. Gee, I wonder, why are people dodging train fares so much and getting away with it? So, who's to blame here? And more importantly, why hasn't this the bridge opened? So, who's to blame here? Is it project driving, regeneration building, expertise thriving, overpriced market profiteering, rent accumulating, property developer mentor? Is it the ceaselessly inept and bankrupt Croydon Council? Or is it penny pinching Network Rail? Maybe it's a toxic mix of all three. Who knows? I'm just a bloke on the internet with a funny coat who uses a lot of Google and can read fast. There is, however, one interesting question that we haven't asked yet. Namely, who, back in 2013 when the agreement to build the bridge was first signed over to Mentor, was in charge of Croydon Council's planning committee? You know, the board that forgot to oversee the inclusion of any kind of legal deadline for when the build had to be done. Yeah, that planning application board. Well, back then it was headed up by none other than our current mayor, Jason Perry. If you know Mayor Perry's stances on basically anything that goes wrong with Croydon Council recently, he usually likes to blame the previous Labour administration. But in this case, this controversy has been going on for so long that the Tories were actually in charge when it first started. So he can't do that. Instead, he gave this very brief and bland statement on the matter.
I share residents' concerns that East Croydon footbridge needs to be completed and that the vital pedestrian route connecting east to west needs to open as soon as possible. This project ran into complications, which delayed its completion, but I'm determined to work with our partners, Network Rail and Mentor, to get the job done.
So, I've been reading about this story for a while, but having recently moved to somewhere in the East Croydon area, I knew I had to make a video about it. But when all the headlines came out about the bridge actually opening soon, I thought, oh no, I've missed the party on it. But, as with most things in Croydon, there was a twist in the tale. And as usual, it's a twist that's very painful for the area's residents. Let us know if you think this bridge will actually open, or what would happen if you were in charge in the comments. And as always, keep watching the Cronks.